Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this morning? Welcome back to the Good Morning Asgard podcast, episode 560 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where this morning, trying something a little bit different, so please let me know if there are any issues with this stream. I had been using something called Prism Live Studio for a long time and just got a notification the other day that they are now hiding a bunch of features behind a paywall, including the multi-stream ability, which is, of course, just ridiculous because part of what they had been promoting for themselves was the whole multi-stream stuff. And the fact that they are now putting that behind a paywall is a bit ridiculous. And so I'm now back on regular OBS. Luckily, Stream Elements has a plugin that went live several months ago that seems to be working pretty well as far as getting content out there, the ability to stream to multiple locations. And so I tried getting all that stuff configured correctly. So we should be live on YouTube, on Odyssey, on Rumble, also over on X. And so please let me know if everything is coming through okay this morning. But other than that, we are going to be talking today about the box office of the upcoming weekend because right now Deadline has some early tracking numbers, some early projections on what they think is going to be happening with 28 Years Later and the new Disney Pixar film Elio. And right now, the early indication is that 28 Years Later is going to actually beat Elio. That's right. 28 Years Later is going to actually defeat Elio, according to the early tracking, the early projections. What's very interesting about all of this is the fact that when you think just even from a few years ago about the state of Disney Pixar, everyone would have said, oh yeah, Disney's always going to win. Disney's always going to be able to produce the kinds of movies that people want to go see, that are going to make tons and tons of money. How far they have fallen. Not only is this a really bad opening weekend projection for Elio as an individual movie, with a budget that is rumored to have ballooned up to around $300 million because of reshoots, because of a change of director partway through the filming, changing a lot of the elements of the story from what we can tell, even from the trailers themselves. We'll wait for some more confirmation on those budgets, but again, estimated to be almost $300 million without marketing put into it. Means that the film has to make on paper at least probably like $900 million to break even, maybe even close to $1 billion if those numbers are accurate. And yet its opening weekend, both domestically and even worldwide, is set to be lower than a follow-up to a franchise that I'm a fan of. I like 28 Days Later. I like 28 Weeks Later. It's been a while since we've had one of these 28 films, 28-day, 28-year films. Don't know exactly what to call this franchise, right? And not only has it been a while since this movie has come out, but this is a rated R film. It's not often that rated R movies are able to defeat PG films, that are able to somehow defeat movies with massive budgets from a company like Disney. And yet that's exactly what is being said is going to be happening this weekend. So it will be very, very interesting to see how all of that stuff goes. And let me double check. So it looks like YouTube is going through okay. I think I can see X is going through okay as well. Let me see how things are going over on the Green Machine. Making sure that the content is live over there. Let's see. I did configure that correctly. Good. And then the only other one I need to check then is Odyssey. And it says that we are live over on Odyssey as well. Perfect. So if y'all have any issues, do let me know. Again, we are trying something a little bit different today. But that's going to be basically the main talking points today are this new projection that just went live yesterday, saying 28 years later, a rated R film in a franchise that has only 2 other movies to its name. Again, a popular one amongst horror fans especially, zombie movie fans as well, is expected to walk all over Disney's Elio, Disney Pixar's Elio. Again, not only is it a Disney animated movie that's failing, it's a Disney Pixar film that is failing. Very much reminiscent, based on these early numbers, very reminiscent of what happened with Strange World, which was one of the biggest flops in the history of Disney and of that relationship that Disney has had with its animators for so long. But before going into those stories, and of course also talking about Superman, because we also have the early tracking on Superman, and I gotta say, even though I'm not saying the movie's going to fail, I'm not saying the movie's going to suck, I just don't really buy into these numbers that we're getting. They just seem way too high. They seem way too kind. All I can think about are what were the last numbers for a DC film, for a DC live action film, and how does that actually compare to what we're getting here? It's crazy. It's crazy how big these numbers are. So we'll talk about the Superman numbers as well and my general thoughts on that. But let's go ahead and say hello to the people. Thank y'all very much for testing some things out today. So the Morak saying, good morning. What's going on, Morak? Welcome back. We got Thanatos Felicitas hanging out. What's going on, Thanatos, at 9:51. Morak saying, all good on YouTube. Thank you for checking that. Lovely Sherry. What's going on, the lovely Sherry? Welcome back. Always glad to have you here. Caveat Ty saying, howdy, fellas. Howdy you, Caveat. The Morak saying, stream working on X as well. Perfect. Very, very good. One of the benefits of using this plugin is that I might be able to start, basically the way it's set up typically is you have to go in on this like X producer page in order to create a stream, and it's a big hassle. But I think on here I might actually be able to start just creating a new one every single time and just letting that work. So very, very excited if it all works out as well as it should, as long as OBS doesn't crash, which again, OBS can sometimes have that ability, especially with when it's got different plugins working for it and everything like that. But so far, things seem to be going okay. We got Brimstone hanging out. Morning, Odin. Hail to the Allfather. Hail to you, Brimstone. Welcome back. Glad to have you here. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our first bit of news for today. So obviously, we have the first story of 28 years later. Again, for those that may have missed it at the very beginning, this is a rated R film. All right, a rated R film. Let's see, Ben. Hello from a plane in Ecuador. I hope that you are safe and having fun. All right, let's go ahead and look at these numbers here. I closed that window by accident. Hey, that's what happens with newer technology. Anyway, 28 years later, as being reported over Deadline, walking to $56 million worldwide opening, Elio orbiting $50 million worldwide, as Dragon looks to lord the U.S. box office. So not only is How to Train Your Dragon live action going to be taking the #1 spot again this weekend, especially domestically, but also Elio, the new Disney animated movie, Disney Pixar film, is going to be only opening to $50 million worldwide. Oof. Just keep in mind, when Lilo and Stitch live action opened, it opened to over $300 million worldwide. When the Minecraft film came out, that movie opened to over $300 million worldwide. When How to Train Your Dragon just came out, it actually, quote, disappointed to a certain degree and only opened to $200 million globally. And yet the new Disney Pixar film, Elio, $50 million. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. If you thought Disney was back, if you thought, oh, Disney's doing so well, look at the numbers of what they got for Lilo and Stitch. Could be $1 billion film for all we know. This is not where they want to be. And if the rumors about how much that film cost are true, oh boy, not going to end well. Sony and Danny Boyle's post-apocalyptic infected dead people revival, 28 years later, that's a mouthful, Deadline, opens Friday along with Disney Pixar's original sci-fi Elio, which are looking at a global start of 56 and 50 million respectively. Together with Universal's How to Train Your Dragon, which is expected to hold at #1 with a $40+ million second weekend, the three movies look to make around 90 million domestic. Broken out, that's 28 to 30 million for 28 years later and 20+ million for Elio. That's right, 20+. While that amount of money doesn't equal the massive second weekend take of Inside Out 2 a year ago, Consider the two wide entries a further deepening of the summer box office with a diversity of fare. That's been the motif all season long, no? Oh boy. These people who write the articles over at Deadline drive me nuts. 20 Years Later, which was a major win for Sony in its auction, is an elevated horror film, arguably older skewing than Final Destination Bloodlines, which pulled in 67% of the 18 to 34 demo. Fans have emailed us urging us to report that the Boyle-directed third installment after 28 days later and 28 weeks later has a shot at $50+ million in its opening, but the pre-sales show no indication of that. Well, again, this is why Deadline and the older media oftentimes get these numbers wrong, because they are looking at a kind of an outdated metric. They're looking at pre-sale data. Pre-sale data does not mean as much as it once did. You know, it's never been a perfect system. Just go back in time. I mention this all the time, right? If you go back to when they were when Solo Star Wars Story was coming out, right? When Solo Star Wars Story was coming out, they were talking about all of the big numbers for that movie. Right? They were talking about all of the big pre-sales for that movie, that it was breaking records, as they always like to say, right? Flying off the charts. And yet, that movie had a very weak opening and ended up failing. Ended up being a massive failure. The first Star Wars movie to, in many ways, to lose money, to lose quite a bit of money. I think it lost over $100 million, if memory serves correct. Kind of what started this channel as far as our coverage of box office is concerned. But man, oh man, it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. 28 weeks later, or rather 28 years later, I think does indeed have a shot at $50 million because it is a very passionate franchise. And so yes, hardcore fans, they've already gotten their tickets for sure. But there's a lot of other people. I'm a fan of it myself. I haven't pre-bought my ticket. I'm of the old school. I'm the person that I like to typically buy my ticket the day of, depending on the theater that I'm going to, right? Obviously, if it's one that you have to pick your seat, okay, I'm going to do that beforehand because I don't want to have to worry about doing that at the theater. So $50 million, I think, is on the table, for sure. Regardless of that, though, Disney, boy, oh boy. All right, this goes on. Advanced ticket sales are just above Longlegs and Civil War, and 2023's Evil Dead Rise. I feel like there's been some issues in this article. Was it Evil Dead Rise or is it Evil Dead Rises? A $30 million start would be a major win for this $60 million net cost feature production about a father and a boy venturing into an isle full of infected dead people who hunger for the living. Again, it sounds like it's going to be a very exciting film. And I think that though they are saying it's not going to skew as low as far as demographics as Final Destination Bloodlines, I think it has a chance of doing more so there, right? The marketing, I think, has been pretty effective. It's been effective enough to where people who are fans of the franchise, like I am, I'm interested. And I think anyone who maybe hasn't seen these before can say, ooh, zombie film, count me in. So I think once those two come together, and that's going to be a lot more walk-up traffic than maybe is being expected here for the movie by the people over at Deadline, I think that's what you're going to see bring in that much higher chance, that much higher possibility of the film doing better. So again, 28 to 30 million for 28 years later is what the current tracking from the old guard is saying. Now, we still don't have the official numbers for what is going to be projected by Box Office Theory and others, but as of the last update that they had, so again, this is from Sean Robbins, 6 days ago was the last update they had. And again, what they had listed here for this upcoming weekend was that 28 years later was going to make between 42 and 50. So even the early tracking for them, and they're not just looking at pre-sales, they're also looking at social media. They're looking at a lot of different factors to consider these things. So they're thinking 42 to 50 million even before then. So don't be surprised once their actual forecasting comes out. Hey, they might actually say this film has a much better chance. 27 to 34 is what they had listed for what they thought Elio was going to be doing. Interesting that this is much higher than what is being said is going to happen by Deadline. So again, typically when Deadline, this was the other misspelling I saw, how to try in your dragon. Whoa, interesting. So How to Train Your Dragon, clearly a huge win for Universal. DreamWorks doing very, very well. $1 billion, though, anyone who might be saying that, it's not on the table. It's only made just over $200 million. It's tracking well, but it's not doing the kinds of numbers it would need to in order to hit that mark. It's still going to be a successful film, though. I just want to make that very clear. Elio, on the other hand, is not. Again, $300+ million budget without marketing, it's accounted for, so well over that much. Probably $450-ish million when you take into account Disney's marketing machine, even though marketing for this film probably is pretty weak and they probably don't have a lot of confidence in it. It's not surprising that they're going to release it at all, especially since this is just going to go straight onto their streaming service. It's going to go straight onto Disney Plus within no time. It's almost like, wouldn't it have been better at this point if you're spending that much money on it that you just shelve it and take the loss and just write it off on your taxes? Because that's the kind of money that Elio is expected to be doing at this point in time. Goes on, should 28 years later be destined for a bigger life in its opening weekend, it would boil down to what reviews come in. The embargo lifts at 2 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, so that would be today, and the heat coming off of a Thursday night. Final Destination, Bloodlines, and here's the thing. Okay, kind of going back for there. Yes, reviews matter to a certain degree, but if you think people, to a large extent, are going to be sitting with and waiting with bated breath to see what some critics have to say about a movie before going to watch it, again, there are people like that who exist. I've met some of those people in my life. I think I've mentioned this story before. When I lived down in New Orleans, the person who was spraying for bugs in the house was spraying in my room and saw the setup for the YouTube stream and said, oh, what do you talk about? Like, what's your channel? And I had mentioned about how I do box office and movie reviews and things like that. And so he almost immediately mentioned how he goes to Rotten Tomatoes to see what are the positively reviewed movies. And then that's what helps him determine what he's going to go see. So I know that they exist. I've met them before. But it doesn't really have an impact to the degree that they might be thinking. I think at one point in time, it had a much bigger effect, right? I remember I used to be that person. I used to be on Rotten Tomatoes every single weekend. Be like, okay, what's being said? You used to be able to actually read Rotten Tomatoes because you knew, okay, if it's got a high audience and a high critic score, it's all around a great film and it's entertaining. If it's got a very low critic score but a high audience score, okay, may not be the best film objectively, but hey, it's going to be a good time. And then if it's got a very high critic score and a very low audience score, ooh, there might be some problems there. But then they had to go in and tinker with their system. And then reviewers, I think, who were posting on there, the Rotten Tomatoes critics themselves, I think started to really take advantage of the fact that when they put a review out there, they get to decide whether they think it's a, quote, fresh or rotten score. So they can give a movie a 5 out of 10, which I would consider to be a relatively rotten score, and click fresh for it. And actually, years ago, I looked into it and actually looked into the reviews of certain people and showed, hey, they've actually given the same score different times for different movies, but different times listed it as fresh or listed it as rotten. So even the reviewers themselves were kind of playing that game, which is why, again, the Rotten Tomatoes score really does not mean anything at all. It's not even taking an overall look of what the average scores they're giving for the actual movie itself. If you dive deeper into the numbers, you see normally the Rotten Tomatoes score is 10 to 15, if not more, points higher than the average critic rating. But I digress. Ratings don't really mean much as far as box office, though. Deadline. And then the heat coming off of Thursday, again, momentum is a thing. There's no denying that, right? Momentum is a huge factor. But word of mouth is much more important. So if you have a low Thursday number, but the word of mouth is really, really high, and the word of mouth is very positive, okay, that low Thursday won't mean as much because you'll be able to build that on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But anyway, it's kind of amazing to me that we're in the situation now where a rated R film 28 years later is expected to do better than Elio. And again, this is 56 million worldwide. According to Deadline, 30 or so million of that is going to be from the domestic. So you could potentially see if it gets that extra 15 to 20 million, as some fans are thinking it could, 70-ish million worldwide. Yeah, not saying that's going to happen. Would be interesting. What we can say, though, is no one has any positive things really to say about Elio and its overall prospects. But anyway, what say you guys? Let us go back into the chat. Let's see. YouTube me, welcome back. Caveat ties, tickets cost more to buy online anyway. That's true. They do have those online ticketing fees and such. The Beast 808, aloha and blessings everyone. Hail to you. Brimstone, good lord. Those are good numbers. Yes. What do you mean? Which one? For 28 years later? Oh, it's very good numbers for 28 years later. No doubt about that. Twisted Reality, what's going on, man? Welcome back. like it's been a while since I've seen that name in the chat. So thank you for being here. Hail to you. All right. Let me see what else I can also pull up on that. Because again, Box Office Theory has the overall forecasting, but does not have anything else. Let me see if Box Office Pro has their numbers out yet. But I'd say it's pretty early. Typically, Box Office Pro tends to be the earliest, so theirs usually come out today. Their weekend projections come out sometime today. Box Office Theories sometimes today or tomorrow, and then Box Office Report is always Thursday night, Friday morning that those numbers ultimately come out. So right now, all we really have is to work off of is the numbers for that are being reported by Deadline, which is going to be also picked up by all of the other sites and all of the other places that are being picked up with. Now, let's go ahead and look into what they have to say here about Elio, because it is going to get really, really bad for this movie. Again, I can't overstate really how bad these numbers are. All right, Elio's U.S. Canada advanced ticket sales are around $1 million, which is just ahead of where Pixar's 2023 summer original title, Elemental, was. That movie opened to $29.6 million. While $20 million stateside is nothing to brag about, this is the new paradigm for original animated movie openings, and the importance given matinee business during the week for families is the leg out factor. Elemental did a 5 times multiple, and indeed it did. Elemental did very, very good down the stretch after an abysmal opening, but even with it doing much better down the stretch, it still was not a huge success. Like, it saved itself from becoming a catastrophic failure for Disney, but it definitely wasn't enough for it to be like, oh yeah, everything's good now, right? Because that's only 5 times your domestic. That's not 5 times your worldwide total. Remember, you need 3 times, in today's world, you need at least 3 times your budget worldwide to break even. And I don't remember the international numbers for Elemental being too big. But we'll look into those numbers just to double check that. And also to keep myself honest, because honestly, I don't remember fully what those numbers are. Reviews for Elio stand at 82% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is higher than Elemental's 73%. Elio follows a young space fanatic whose wish for adventures with aliens in outer space comes true. His journey leads to a greater connection with Earthbound Aunt, who cares for him following the death of his parents. The movie itself is its biggest advertisement. Look for word of mouth to carry Elio. Again, I think that's a very bold projection to make, especially when in the same article that you are arguing, this is Tony and Nance at Deadline, this is the joint article that they do every week, when just previously in another paragraph you talked about how, oh, well, you know what? Numbers are actually, it's not as big of a deal, okay? When early in the article, they went out of their way to say, oh, well, just wait for those reviews to come out. If the reviews are really good, well, then that means something. So you're giving some credence to reviews, clearly. Okay, then how do you explain the fact that you've even just said Elio's reviews are pretty bad, like pretty good compared to Elemental's, right? A good 10-point difference, a 10-point differential. And again, that's the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is garbage, right? But still, a 10-point difference, 73% versus 82%. It's a pretty big difference, right? 82% is going to be seen much more positively. And yet, you're also saying, oh, Elio is expected to make a good 10 million less than Elemental. How do those two things match up? Just because Elemental was able to leg out and carry forward doesn't mean that every single movie will do that same thing. Is the movie actually good? Actually good. Not what the critics say is good or not, but is the film actually good? Is it actually going to bring audiences out? To me, I'm going to be honest. With modern Disney, I don't know if I want or would want to bring my kids to see a film where they deal with the death of one's parents. Again, that's already a pretty dark story, and obviously, Disney's history, we can see many dark stories. Lion King, great example, right? Many others. But modern Disney is not the classic era Disney. And how they handle death, how they try to explain how a child should handle death, is, I think, going to be something that a lot of parents might be waiting on and holding off on before going to see this. Especially, keep in mind, if they wanted to bring their kids to a movie, they can keep bringing them over to How to Train Your Dragon. Since it's just a shot-for-shot remake of the original animated movie, which is, again, why I don't really think it's that special, and I really don't like it for that very reason, because to me, it's like it's a waste of time and money just to get a quick cash grab. But if you have to bring you have to bring your kids to the theater, it's like, okay, well, we don't really need to take a chance with Elio when we don't know exactly who this is. It's original content, original fare. At the same token, we do have to say this is part of the reason why Disney is not making a lot of original content anymore. It doesn't sell. But it's not the original content that's the problem, Disney. It's you. It's your brand. It's what you have done to previous established brands. If we can't even trust you with Star Wars, if we can't even trust you with Marvel, if we can't even trust you with properties that have long lineages, have long story arcs, if we can't even trust you to be respectful of the source material and to create good films consistently over time, and again, we're talking more so the last 5-10 years, because obviously there was a long stretch where Marvel films were really good. But if we can't trust you there, why in the world would we trust you with an original movie? With whatever type of messaging that you might be trying to push. And again, so far, there's nothing that I've heard of that is at all messaging with this movie. But the fact that the director did not finish the movie, the first director did not finish the film, and they had to bring some other people in to finish it, and it actually changed the overall story arc, okay, that should automatically bring some concern there. Even though it's not looking to be great, it's going to have that Disney power machine behind it, okay? Elio is booked at 3,700 screens, including 725 premium large format screens, 2,500 3D screens. That's where they make a lot of their money. If you want to know why is it that these bad Disney movies keep making as much money, it's because of how much they put into 3D screens. That's an extra $3 to $5 per ticket, at least. Also, 175 D-Box motion screens. I think that's like the 4DX screens. Limited 2D and 3D early access screenings will take place on Thursday, followed by national previews beginning at 2 p.m. Interesting. Gets earlier and earlier every year, it seems. And this is saying that the movie cost $150 million. $150 million. Now, again, World of Real had the report that the film actually cost $300, or that the cost rose to that. Here's why I don't really buy the 150 number. That's what a Disney Pixar film typically costs. In fact, that might even be on the cheaper side of things. And yet we know that there were reshoots. We know that there were some issues in the production that have extended this movie out. This movie should have come out a long time ago, in fact, based off of when they started filming. So I don't buy that 150. Again, this is, I mentioned this in a previous live stream. Wait and see what number Disney puts out to the trades, because typically what happens is that the trades will get some wind from someone in the studio, right? They'll never say, oh, here's our source, here's exactly what was said, here is the verifiable number, right? No, instead they'll just say, oh yeah, it cost this much. Take our word for it. Oh, you mean take your word for it like all those Marvel films that you listed as 150 to 250 million ended up costing 300 plus million when the actual numbers, when the tax returns came out? Why? Because again, they just take the studio's word for it and then they print it as if it's fact. That's one of my biggest issues with sites like Deadline and others. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, 150 million. You're stating that as a fact. You're saying the movie cost 150 million. According to who? Do you have the tax returns? Do you have their paperwork to confirm that that's the actual cost? Or should the actual article be saying, Disney has told us, or a representative of Disney has mentioned to us, the cost being X? Always bothers me when they have that stuff in there. So right now, $150 to $300 million is the range that we have on this movie. Again, that makes a pretty big difference, but not really. When you're opening to 20 million, right now projected 20 million domestic, and almost 50 million internationally or worldwide total, off of a $150 million budget, that's awful. Now, this also tells me what they think the film's going to do. Disney only puts numbers out that make them look as best as possible. That's why they don't go out of their way to release their budgets. That's why you have to go to Caroline Reed over on Forbes to find out, oh, what did you actually spend on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? What did you actually spend on the myriad of $300+ million budgeted movies, costing so much more than what Deadline and others claimed the actual budgets were? So again, this $150 million number is what Disney wants us to think. It's what a representative of Disney has clearly told these trades. Hey, this is what the movie cost. Trust us. Smiley face, right? That's basically what I imagine those conversations are like. So that means I think what they suspect is $150 million is what their goal is. Because then they can spin it and say, oh, look, the budget's only $150 million, and we only made $150 million. Oh, okay, we basically made our money back. Because they know most people don't know how the box office works. And it's like, no. You don't need to make $150 million to break even. You need to make 3 times that to break even. You need to make roughly $500 to $600 million to break even. And your movie's not going to do that. If your movie's only hitting $150 million, oh boy, that's quite a bit of cash. Quite a bit of cash to lose. Anyway, let's head back into the chat. Brimstone saying, I don't go to the movies anymore. My local theater shut down after 30 years, and they didn't renew their lease and turn them into storage units. That makes me very sad. Yeah, theaters in many ways are still hurting quite a bit. And that's the other factor here. It's not just Disney is going to be losing a ton of money, but it's also like, this is a movie. It's a Disney Pixar animated movie. This is a movie that should be helping theaters. This is a movie which should be bringing the people in. And it's not doing that at all. Eastland Burkholder. What's going on, Eastland? Welcome back. Brimstone, Criticless is where reviews are at. I agree completely. If you've not joined Criticless yet, please be sure and go ahead and do so. In fact, with that being said, let me go ahead and pull up Criticless. I love this site. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I just love the retro theme. I am definitely a mark for the whole retro vibe that Criticless has, that's for sure. I need to fix that transition. It's taking way too long. And I don't know exactly how to do that quickly without using too much brain activity. So anyway, Criticless, it's amazing. Check it out. Follow me at OMB Reviews over there. It is a ton of fun. Again, fun retro vibes. You can get badges for for reviewing certain movies. Get my most recent reviews. If you ever want to know like why aren't I doing the movie reviews anymore on video, it's because I oftentimes either one, don't have the time or mental capacity with the 2 kids especially these days, and so I like to focus mostly just on box office stuff. But I get a 55% decent score for How to Train Your Dragon live action because it's the animated movie. That's all that it really is. It's a shot-for-shot remake of that with only a few changes, and overall, the Karate Kid Legends film, I did watch this as well. It's pretty bogus. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's ridiculous. The direction they try to go in, and the fact that it also has no connection to Cobra Kai is a huge missed opportunity for them. Mobland was a great show. Phoenician Scheme was good, but very mixed on that. Very mixed also on Ballerina as well. One film I do need to add here that I was able to watch yesterday was Havoc. I know that Gary has spoken very highly of Havoc. It's a Netflix film. I'm going to be honest, though. It's a hot mess. It is a hot mess. Again, there's things in there that are cool. But the shaky cam on all the chase sequences and everything, like I think Gareth Edwards was the director behind it. He was also, I think, the same director behind Rogue One, maybe. And oh man, it was a tough watch for that alone. And it's a bunch of bad guys, and there's the better of the bad guys. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Again, there was some good stuff in there for sure. But it's not as good as kind of my expectations were. Gary really built that movie up. So anyway, what I wanted to check, though, is because sometimes people do get early access to some movies. So let's see if anyone has posted any early reviews for these films. And so far, no reviews for Elio. They'll probably change sometime tonight because some people might have, again, gotten access to some early screenings and will be posting their reviews there. So it'll be interesting to see what the reviews end up saying. For that, also, again, for 28 years later, technically there was a review embargo. So again, yeah, no reviews yet for that. So that we might start to get a couple of reviews here and there for that sometime tonight or tomorrow for that. And I mentioned this last stream, but yeah, for those that don't know, 28 years later actually is a part of a trilogy. So there's going to be part 2 that comes out in 2026. So it comes out next year. Nia DaCosta. That's right. The Marvels director, Nia DaCosta, also Candyman, very limited directorial experience, has no other connections to this universe, but for some reason is going to be directing the sequel of this trilogy. It'll still be written by Alex Garland, so it should still have the same feel, but very weird choice. And then Danny Boyle's coming back for the third movie. Again, I don't quite understand why they are having it split that way. I mean, it is going to be cool that Cillian Murphy is going to be coming back. And from what, it's been a long time since I've seen 28 Days Later as well, but I'm going to be interested to see how they do that. Because didn't he get infected at one point? I'm pretty sure like the movie ends with him getting infected, if memory serves. But anyway, so no reviews yet live there, but Criticless is an amazing platform. Check it out. It's free, and it's got a really cool retro vibe going for it, and yeah, it's awesome. All right. Eastland Burkholder saying, reading articles explaining why it contradicts itself or does not connect the dots to draw the picture they say they are drawing. So, yes, I keep saying your math sounds wrong. How do you get that conclusion? Wait, what? G Monkey 76, what's going on? Welcome back. Justin C, thank you for tagging, saying, morning to you, sir. I have a good feeling and think F1 will be a good time. Me as well. I know that Jeremy Johns went to go see it. I haven't seen his review, but it looked like in his thumbnail that he had a smile, so likely a positive review from him. And then I know that John Flickinger went to go see it, and he liked it. Now, the only concern I have is that he didn't love it. He liked it, he had a lot of fun with it, but he also was a bit tempered, a bit more tempered than I would have liked. So I'm excited. I'm definitely excited to see it. I think that it could be really, really good. But I do also have those concerns because I want it to be phenomenal. That's what I want F1 to be. JS Pena, morning to you, JS Pena. Welcome back. Caveat ties. I've got to put Elio 28 years on Criticless box office tycoon for bid. There you go. Brimstone, I'm in and out working on my 50th Jaws video. Well, hey, awesome. Morak, tag to say, Gareth Edwards did Rogue One and the creator. I'm not familiar with Gareth Evans. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, because I was just like, wait a minute. I honestly couldn't remember. Because I thought it was Gareth Edwards. Nope, Gareth Evans. It is Gareth Evans. Interesting. Ah, okay. So, Gareth Evans... Okay, yeah, I was wondering, like, why am I getting these two things? So, yeah, it is a completely different guy. So, Gareth Evans is the one who did The Raid and The Raid 2. Or at least he was a part of The Raid and The Raid 2. All right, in his biography, it says he's a Welsh film director, screenwriter, and choreographer. He's best known for the Indonesian action crime film series Merantau, The Raid, and The Raid 2. And for bringing the Indonesian martial art of Pencak Silat into world cinema through these films. He is also known for co-creating, co-writing, co-directing, and executive producing the Sky Atlantic AMC action crime drama television series Gangs of London, along Matt Flannery, based on the 2006 video game of the same name. Interesting. So yeah, different person, not Gareth Edwards, Gareth Evans, but has a pretty good track record. So he's the one that did Havoc, but he's also done things like VHS2 and Apostle, which looks like a horror film, Iron Fist and Kung Fu Killers, Merantau, I had not heard of that, The Banished Footsteps, Samurai. See, Merantau from 2009, Indonesia. 2 reviews, 55% for one, 80% for the other, so very mixed there. So, again, I love The Raid and The Raid 2. I think those are phenomenal movies. Havoc was, I think the reason why the quick cut that The Raid has, because they have that in there too. The reason why it works, though, is that it's mostly just in that hand-to-hand combat, and there's not a lot of use of weapons for that very reason. It's a lot more stunts. Havoc is so much more gunfire. Oh, my goodness. The amount of, like, Tommy gun type fire, like, we're just spraying everything around, it was way too much. Because it's just that many more visual effects, that many more CGI effects. and it just looks artificial. It just doesn't look very believable. At one point, too, there's a fight scene that happens where Tom Hardy's character is like struggling because he's being attacked by a lot of people. But then the actress who plays, is it Mia in the movie? Yeah, is the girl that he's going after, and she's just like killing these people left and right. It's like, and she's grabbing like random things, and it's just like, what in the world is going on here? It's crazy. So yeah, Havoc's a bit of a mixed bag. It's just I thought it was gonna be a lot better. After 28 days later on DVD, he did not get infected. Okay, again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but for some reason I thought I remember. Because no, wasn't he the one where it's like he looked up and then there was a drop of blood that like fell into his eye? Wasn't that him? I need to rewatch that series before I watch 28 years later, or at the very least, I need to watch like a retroactive video that can like catch me up on everything because it's been so long. By the way, 21 people watching on YouTube. Please make sure to smash that like button. Would appreciate that quite a bit. I'm not seeing any activity on the other platforms, so hopefully everything's still coming through fine there. Looks like the chat on Rumble's quiet, chat on Odyssey is quiet, and the chat on X is quiet as well. Let's see, Justin C. Hope this new 28 Years trilogy does well and not end up like Horizon and American Saga. Not even sure Part 2 has a release date yet. Yeah, man, the American Saga. The big issue with that thing, though, is how much it cost. I mean, that's a huge vanity project that was put forward by Kevin Costner. So it's not surprising that the film actually and the series actually failed, because when you're, basically that whole expression of know when to kill your darlings, I don't think he did that, because I did not like the first one. I know there were a lot of people that did, but I just thought it was way over bloated, too many storylines. They didn't really connect. They also just didn't feel very fleshed out either. And I think it's a situation where he just didn't know when to kill his darlings. I think he probably should have just tightened up the script a bit. Probably could have made it not have to be a 3-part series either. I think it had to be 3 parts because of the fact that he just couldn't say no to any of the ideas that he was coming up with. But that I think is not going to happen with 28 Years Later, because it's actually here's the story. Here's how we're going to continue the story. Here's how we're going to move forward with the story. And it's going really well, I think. I mean, the fact that 28 Days and Weeks are both good, and there's all this hype for this one. The trailer looks good. A lot of the same people involved as well. I think there's a lot of... and Alex Garland is, I think, on a pretty good roll. I know not everyone liked his movie Civil War. I did. That was kind of a return to form movie for me, because after he did the movie Men, for instance, it was like, okay... to be honest, I have not watched it, but the whole premise of the movie is about like guys. It was like, I don't know, that just seems very politically minded. And Alex Garland obviously does have some of that tint to him in his real life. But he did that one, and then that was also his follow-up to... Oh man, I'm blanking out, because honestly, I think I've tried to push the film out of my mind because I hated it so much, and it could have been good. So, because Alex Garland did a phenomenal movie called Ex Machina, which is so good. So Ex Machina was fantastic. That was his directorial debut. And then he did Annihilation 4 years later. That's what it was. Annihilation. So he did Annihilation, which I hated. Hated. Because that one also was very girl bossy, very just modern feminist type story. Men seemed to be almost like a follow-up to that. Here's the basic description. Here's why it's like, oh, we didn't see the movie. It's like, it stars Jessie Buckley as a widowed woman who travels on holiday to a countryside village, but becomes disturbed and tormented by the strange men in the village, all portrayed by Rory Kinnear. Seems to be going somewhere with that, right? And the trailers for it also was pushing something there too. But then 2 years later, he does Civil War, which I really liked quite a bit. And then I liked even more Warfare, which came out this year. A lot of people really liked Warfare. If you've not got a chance to see that yet, I highly recommend it. He was a director-writer on that one, too. He also co-directed it with someone who was an actual vet, so that was really cool. That happened. And, he's doing 28 Years Later, and he's also writing the sequel to 28 Years Later, which is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. So he's writing and producing both of those movies. So there's at least, I think, some reason to have some hope there for at least the sequel in 2026. But for this year, 28 Years Later has a lot of stuff going for it. Same director, Danny Boyle, who's a very gifted director. Where's he been recently? Let me see if I can find his filmography. So it's been a while for him, because it seemed like he had like a lot of films pretty close together. Because he had 120. That's right. So he did 28 Days Later in 2002. Then he did a movie called Millions, which I never got to see. Sunshine, which was really good. Slumdog Millionaire a year later, which was great. 127 Hours, which I liked. Trance, which not as good. Then he did Steve Jobs a couple years after that. It was fine. He then did Trainspotting 2, which I never got to see because I never saw the first one, and so I was just like, I don't know about that. Then he did Battle of the Sexes, which looked awful. Yesterday he did in 2019. I like that one, but it was interesting because that one actually, I think, got sued because they marketed a certain actor in the movie who ended up like not being in it at all. I think that person won that lawsuit against them, which was interesting. So it's been about 6 years. So definitely, I think, a return to form for him, hopefully. But he'll at least be a producer on The Bone Temple coming out next year. So I think there's a lot of good signs for the 28 Years Later franchise. I think that's kind of the main takeaway. Let's see. Brimstone should have gotten more Yellowstone one. On the upside, we are getting more Rip and Beth in a new show. Yeah, it depends on the writers, though. It depends on the writers. It depends on the directors as well. So if they've got the same team doing that spinoff, then it could be really, really good. Okay? But if they don't, I don't know. Twisted Reality said that was the dad. Okay. I don't know. For some reason, it's like that Streisand effect, or no, not Streisand. I mean, it is when you remember something that didn't actually happen. Is that what that one is? I forget. But anyway, I could have sworn something happened. Brimstone, and then we get season 2 of Landman. Oh yeah, so excited for that. Brimstone that says Ex Machina is amazing. Made me realize how good Oscar Isaacs is as an actor. Agreed. And one could argue that Ex Machina might have that same hint of like feminism within it as well, but it's much more subtle because of how the rest of the story plays out and also what the focal point is. Mandela effect. Thank you. Okay. I was like, Streisand effect, Mandela effect. All these effects kind of just like tie together in different ways. Yeah. Mandela effect. That's the one. Thank you. Bookstore Thor. Anyway, Guy says, hey, Odin, Elio budget is 150 million. Says who? So again, we've already gone through that. Guy, or as I like to call him, Guy. I don't know if you were here for when we covered it. You might need to go back when I give a whole speech about, okay, so Deadline is just stating this as a fact, even though they don't say where they get that number from. They don't give a source. They don't give any information. Now, at least with World of Real, because you could have a similar criticism for them too, but at least with them, they do say that their sources and the things that they are seeing happening, right? They explain where they get their number from. But the $150 million number is very unbelievable because the movie has been delayed. The movie had reshoots. The movie, the director had to stop because it was taking too long, basically, and couldn't finish the movie. And so you had two, they had to bring in two other, I think it was 2 female directors. They had to bring in 2 of them to finish the movie. And that changed a bit of the story, changed a bit of the, so yeah, I'm sorry. If their general spend, because Pixar films almost always spend at least $150-200 million on a movie. If you're going to try to argue that somehow makes sense, that if the movie only costs that much, that's ridiculous. So again, the only source on that is Deadline, and Deadline doesn't give a source. Trust us, bro. And we know that these trades always will get word from the studio in some degree, right? There's sources in the studio or representatives of the studio will tell them, oh, this is the amount of money we spent. But it's not always true. In fact, usually it's wrong. Usually it's off by quite a bit. And it's only because of tax returns that we ever find out about that with real reporters. Keely Chow hanging out. What's going on, Keely Chow? Indeed. Everyone's doing fine. Kids have a bit of a cough, but overall they're doing okay. I do have my my CT scan tomorrow, so that'll be fun. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, Mandela effect. Thank y'all. Keely Chow, Good Morning Asgard is brought to you by Sherry Slammin'. Oh boy. I'll let you have that. Steven, what's going on, man? Been a while. Long time no see. How you been, buddy? How's your summer been so far? I'm finally in summer break from college. Vegas for me soon. Well, hopefully you are responsible going to Vegas. And everything's been fine. Yeah, we've been in summer now for a few weeks. It's crazy that it's already been that long. We've had, I had a trip down to New Orleans, so that probably sped up the time. And then next week, the end of next week, we're going to be going to my wife's family reunion and doing another a further trip out to the Tulsa, Oklahoma area where she's got family there. So yeah, that's going to eat up basically almost an entire week of the break. So I'm trying to enjoy it. I've been doing a lot of gaming. I know I mentioned this last time that I got a Steam Deck because I've gotten really big into retro gaming, and a lot of the systems that I have, because I have like, now it's almost like I've become like a collector. So I've got like the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. So it's an older generation. Can play quite a bit, but not nearly as much as some others. And then I got a couple of the Mii's. So I got the Miiu Mini and the Miiu Mini Plus. But I really wanted one that could play N64 perfectly, that could play up to GameCube well, and even have a bit of headroom for things like some Wii games, maybe even some Switch games down the line. And so I got the Steam Deck, and that's why I don't have this. I don't have the Switch 2, and depending on finances and how good ad revenue is, which it's usually not very good at all, might determine whether I get a Switch 2 this summer or wait until maybe closer to the fall. But with the Steam Deck, it's been a really, really good purchase so far. I've been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild, the Wii U edition, which is actually, it's like surprising how good it is. Like, I know that it was simultaneously released on Switch, because again, thank y'all for reminding me about this, that it was the Wii U and it was also the Switch simultaneous release. It was like the last full big release on the Wii U before that system was made defunct. And it's been really good. And I'm just reminded, because I played Breath of the Wild years ago, and I just forgot how many cool things are in there. Because most of us remember Tears of the Kingdom and all the cool things. I missed being able to fuse things together. That's a really cool thing that they added in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, basically, you get a bunch of resources, and you can fuse them to your arrows. You can fuse them to your swords. So it's another way of like improving your battle capacity, basically. But at the same time, I do like the simplicity of Breath of the Wild. In comparison, because it's still a huge world, a huge map, so many things to do. But yeah, that's what I've been doing for a lot of my days. Also was able to finish up a course this week, which made me very happy. So I've been doing some online courses. Started that last summer. Institute of Catholic Culture offers free courses. They're certificate courses, so you get a certificate when you're done with it. So it's about 40 hours worth of work when it's the lectures and the reading assignments. So I've done one on philosophy, intro to philosophy, and I've done one on patristics 101. So it was really cool getting some things I'd seen before in my master's program in theology, but some things I had seen before as a bit of a reminder, as a refresher, some things as like for the first time too. And yeah, summer's been really good so far. Also been very productive too. My first like full day of break, had to like reorganize our downstairs closet, had to fix the door upstairs. Like, there's a lot of that stuff going on too. Last week, I had to mow the lawn, do the yard work, which hadn't been done in forever, because when the school year is going on, I have no time to mow the lawn and stuff. All right, Arnold. Hey, what's going on? Good morning. You excited for Ironheart? A lot of backlash on the promotion. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready for it because I just don't want to watch it. Comes out next Tuesday. Yeah, first three episodes come out next Tuesday. That's gonna be probably the worst part of next week. I guess the one thing I could argue is that I don't think because of our travels for the family reunion that we are going to next weekend, I think I'll probably I won't be able to do Friday Night Tights next week. So I technically could like get out of the homework. I'm still gonna watch it though because it's like, I mean, we're still gonna talk about it, and the worst thing that could happen is, oh yeah, I have to miss that week, but then I'm gonna be back by the next Friday, and then we're just gonna be talking about probably the next 3 episodes, and it's like I'd rather catch up on 3 episodes versus catching up on, the entire season or whatever. Caveat ties, I love how Breath of the Wild captures the feeling of loneliness. Oh yeah, absolutely. Steven, have you played Mario Odyssey yet? If so, what do you think of it? I have not. I have it. And I've... Actually, no, wait. Is Odyssey the Switch release or is Odyssey the GameCube release? No, yeah. Sunshine is the GameCube. So I have Mario Sunshine, and I'm excited to play that one because I actually never got to play it. But I've actually never played Odyssey. J.S. Pena, hopefully 28 years later is good. I agree. I am having a lot of high hopes for that, too. Brimstone, I have to watch it to Odin. On the upside, game gets a new DLC. I can start fresh. I have to watch it to Odin. On the upside, the game gets a new DLC. I can start fresh. For which game? For which game? Because, the Breath of the Wild I'm playing is the DLC pack, which I never got to do the first time around because I got the DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think I ever got the DLC for Breath of the Wild. So it's been really cool getting a bunch of the armor sets and stuff that I didn't get the first time around. See, Twisted Reality, Ironheart is going to be the acolyte of the MCU. It definitely has those vibes, man. It has those vibes. And as that famous interviewer has said, it's definitely going to be the gayest gays. I can't wait for Alan of Film Threat to talk about it. Steven, after Secret Wars, it's going to be a reboot. It's going to be reboot. I'm pretty sure your prediction, which hero going to die? I mean, honestly, at this point, because the apathy has set in, I don't even care. Because they're bringing random people back. I mean, that's why it's like, it doesn't even matter if someone dies or not, because if they die, it's not goodbye. I would have to look at the actors and say, I guess Chris Hemsworth may not be wanting to do it much longer, so maybe Thor dies because Chris Hemsworth doesn't want to do it anymore. I mean, that's basically where we are with that now. It's like, okay, who's getting older and who's maybe not wanting to do this anymore? Rogue Trader, all new DLC, 15 more hours of gameplay, new archetype origin, and new companion. Love me some 40k. Brimstone. Okay, I never played. I never played that one before. That's awesome. So that's what you've been playing. Gotcha. Very cool. All right, well, that's going to do it for me today, everybody. I wasn't able to get to Superman, which I know is in the title, so I do feel obligated to at least to cover that. So I'll do a quick thing on that one before we end the stream. So no more questions. No more questions, please. So over on Box Office Theory, they have the early projections. So again, this was as of 6 days ago, so these numbers could easily change. But they're right now projecting the film, Superman, to do 140 to 185 domestic opening with a total domestic of 370 to 510. If it actually hits those numbers, $1 billion would actually be on the table for this movie. Here's the thing. I just don't know how much I trust these numbers. It's nothing against Box Office Theory, mind you. It's more of, I think what they're looking at is because one of the things Box Office Theory, just like any of the sites do, is they do consider things like pre-sales. And the reason why they consider things like pre-sales so much is because, again, they're caught in those old ways. Now, Box Office Theory does do some things right in that they also look at social medias. They also look at, views on videos and all the things like that. Why no more questions? Because I'm going to have to leave basically right after because I don't want to go too past 11 a.m. So I'll feel obligated to answer the questions, and so that's why I ask for no questions, just for my own sake. But anyway, so it's expected to do quite a bit of money. Okay, so do I think it's going to hit that though? I have doubts. Now, that's not me saying I am predicting right now that it's going to fail and that it's barely going to make 100. No. I don't know how high this opening is actually going to be. Do I think that it is going to make almost $200 million domestically in its opening weekend? No, I just can't see that happening. Look at the DCEU. And there's caps for what that universe can actually bring about. And James Gunn, again, I think is a turnoff for a lot of people. That being said, I'm also fully aware of the fact that we sometimes get caught in our bubbles. And so sometimes we think things are actually much worse for a franchise or much worse for a film or a studio than what it actually is. So, jury's still out on that. Did want to mention quickly about Superman, though. Right now, the projections are looking really, really good. But again, a lot of stuff could happen between now and then. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today, everybody. Make sure that you check out Geeks and Gamers, as the Geeks and Gamers daily stream should be starting up now, if it hasn't started already. And I want to thank y'all again for being here this morning. Next week, we should still have a Wednesday show. However, the week after that, we'll probably have to cancel the 2 weeks from today, because I'll be driving around the country as we are in St. Louis, driving towards Tulsa, spending a couple days in Tulsa, and then driving back. We probably won't get home until like Thursday or Friday of next week, of that following week, rather. So, again, I want to thank y'all. Caveat Ties, I appreciate you, man. Caveat Ties, Killy Chow, hey, thank you for being here, and thank you for making the show great also. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I'm going to go get some lunch because I'm hungry. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed Wednesday, and as always, God bless. Now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. Also a huge shout out to my newest YouTube member, Raichu. And lastly, to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy, shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.